Another question I came that has come to mind while doing this interview is I'm not guessing anybody's age, but we get a lot of people who've been in the industry for they're sort of retiring, and that's a lot of the leaders that will come in. But having the three of you on, I wanted to ask, how do you think the industry can attract that next generation of professionals into the mining space? Because it has the technology, it has you all over the world it's operating. There's a ton of opportunity, a ton of demand, good paying jobs. But I still talk to people and they're trying to figure out ways to attract people. What are your thoughts on how to get that next generation into the world of mining and mineral processing?
Our approach actually has been putting boots on the ground with the universities. So here within Brisbane, we've got 3 universities that have chemical engineering, or I guess feed-in programs to the mining and metallurgy industry. And so we've been quite active sponsoring the student societies of those universities and having, hosting, like Laurie went to a high school a couple of weeks ago. Rebecca hosted actually, I think, a second-year class of thermodynamics students in the engineering faculty here in our office to talk through what we do and some of the aspects. I mean, I've always felt when I consider what we do is just demystifying that and actually putting people in front of those students and having them actually meet and talk to us both in a social setting as well as through understanding what we do. And that to me is the approach that I think is the best way that we can act to try and push more people into the industry. I think, though, that mining companies as a whole, I mean, we see it here in Australia. It must be in other parts of the world as well that you look at a lot of the advertising. I mean, Glencore itself is now advertising on TV and YouTube commercials here in Australia about the contribution that the resources industry provides to everyday products such as phones and the electricity of the cars. And I think that's the requirement of mining companies, but then us in terms of the teams or the professionals, it's getting that connection in with the students. And I guess not just universities, as I mentioned, Laurie went to high schools. I think that's one of the key areas we're expanding into now. And Glencore as a whole is pushing that in terms of secondary schools within Queensland. We've got a partner here in Queensland where we've got a hosting of various Glencore people from multiple disciplines in the school system across the state. And I think it's programs like that really help.
I was going to ask I'm really interested to hear the reaction and just some of the feedback from the high school students.
Yeah, that was actually a really good experience, and it's not just me. We've got a number of people from Glencore Technology go out to the high schools, and I suppose we work with students on different STEM type activities, and we always seem to get really good engagement. I suppose because they get a different point of view than just their normal teachers. And when we work through these STEM type experiments and whatnot, I find that us as metallurgists are able to give like a really good explanation of exactly what they're seeing. So the students always seem to be really engaged. And I suppose, encourage them when I go to these events, encourage them to go to as many as possible, because when you're in high school, you don't necessarily know what's out there in the world, and you're sort of making decisions. Yeah, you're making decisions for year 11 and 12 for what subjects you're going to study so that you can move into university, so you can get the degree you want to go into the career you want, and you don't necessarily even know what jobs exist at that point in time. So when I go out there, I always try and encourage the students to go to things like that, just so that they can learn, what jobs exist and what things they might be interested in. So, yeah.